OWA, I'd like to thank all of you and your families for coming to our special event to honor our inductees into the Ohio Wrestling Officials Association Hall of Fame. And before I start, I'd like to just, if my officers would stand up and introduce themselves. My name is Dick Lowenstein. I'm the president of the OWA.
I'm Dave Dechek, I'm the secretary.
I'm Dan Kutcher, I'm the historian and in charge of the Hall of Fame.
Rich Carpenter, I'm treasurer.
Jack?
Jack Cruzy, webmaster.
Okay, thank you. Okay. At this time, I would like to, like I said, thank all of you for coming to this event. It's a very special event for us. So on behalf of the OWA, thank you for coming. And at this time, I'm going to have Nevin Taylor, Nevin, go ahead and do an induction for us.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would, please join me as we talk to the man who takes care of us each and every day. Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for this food you provided us today. We want to thank you for the friendships that we've developed through the sport we love and call wrestling. At this time, Lord, I ask you to sound your almighty whistle, because when we sound our whistle down here, Vince Matucci, Stamat, Bagaris, Russ Brode, Paul, Branco, Bill Orr, Westy, Greg West, Ron Hagendish, Bruce Dahl, Jeff Seal. These friends are watching from up above. We're not stalling, Lord, but we are asking for you to protect us each and every day, because sometimes we don't move like we should to follow your leadership and love. Make us deserving of tomorrow and protect us as we go home. In your name we pray, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Steve Long for a special presentation.
Every year, we have the opportunity to honor, I consider one of the legends of our wrestling as an official. He's wrestled, phenomenal official, and I made this decision. I was talking with his daughter about doing this piece of artwork for this gentleman. Tony Campbell, please come up. I want to present this piece of artwork. I'm going to let him open it and let him see it, hopefully for the first time. So, you guys are amazing. Obviously, Tony has officiated just about every state tournament that's ever, up until he retired, that they ever did in Ohio. I mean, he's been doing it for 30 to 40 years, maybe more, as a state official, state wrestling official participant. So, great official. All of us were mentored by him. I think if we were on the mat at all, we were influenced by how he officiated, and certainly a lot of us wanted to be very much like him in how he officiated. So, he had some help. I had his grandkids help me out on this a little bit.
Thank you guys. I can't imagine. Oh man, that's great.
Let's see it.
this way, Tony.
Hold up nice and high.
Me blowing out candles with my dancing.
Thanks, Steph.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah.
So much.
Thank you, Tony, for all you've done for me. Appreciate it. Tony and I had the opportunity to go. Tony and I went up to see Vince 3 days before he passed, and that was something. We met with Ray, had a chance to see him while he was still living. He still recognized us, which is amazing, and he still wanted out of the place where he was at. So unfortunately, 3 days later, he passed. So it's one of those situations that we were honored to be able to see him before he passed and to, say goodbye to him. But Ray and I made that trip a few times, so.
I can't thank you guys enough for everything. You know, I got a couple awards over the last few years, and I was like, I can't imagine I'd get an award for someone that gave me so much. I mean, I appreciate it.
You've given us so much.
Yeah.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Tyler Brooks, who is the representative from the Ohio High School, to present a couple of awards from the Ohio High School to a couple of our officials. Tyler?
Thanks, Dan. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tyler Brooks. I'm the wrestling administrator at the OHSAA, but I've also had the pleasure of working in the officiating department before I became wrestling administrator, and I've worked with all 14 officiating communities that we have across the state for about 8 years now. And I'm not blowing smoke when I say it, but I don't miss an opportunity to say it. This wrestling officiating community is a very special brotherhood, some sisterhood community that it's hard to put into words, and it's hard to quantify or to try to explain to somebody that's not in it. I consider myself a fringe member of this community, and you guys should be very grateful and appreciative. Things like this, they don't happen in other sport communities, and you have a very special leadership group to pull this together to give due recognition, because we know officiating is not a recognition application. So whenever we get an opportunity to do this, it's really important to do so. What I'm going to hand out here are our 50-year Meritorious Awards. What do you say about a lifetime of service? Truly a lifetime of service of nights on the road, time away from your family and friends, to provide the opportunities of the sport that all gave you the reason for being out there on the mat. There's nothing that can be said about 50 years that probably haven't been thought about your legacy. You're not just what you did on the mat, the opportunities you provided for kids all over the state for decades, generations of wrestlers, and then any other official that you've led the way for. What can you say about 50 years or a lifetime of dedication to a sport? You just can't say it enough. So without further ado, we have a couple of officials that we're going to recognize and welcome and congratulate. First of all, Jim Lavery.
Ray's going to put his Trustee Wilson.
Ron Neesett. James Freeland II. That's you, Jim.
That's a little stolen. Let's flip it up.
If you're confused by the timing, we've got a couple years here. If you're confused by the timing, we've got a couple years here. We haven't been able to get together like this for some time, so I think he might actually be up to like 52 or so.
You wonder why I called this meeting, don't you? Thank you.
Larry Saxton.
Inductee.
Yeah, very quickly, Larry's going to be inducted this summer into the Ohio High School Officials Hall of Fame.
Big smile on my face.
We had 350 years last year. Ralph Farmer and Jeff Crosby and myself, we all got our 50s last year. We're making up a new, we're working with Steve to come up with a different thing from the OWA for the 50 years, so that'll be coming really quickly. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Ray, and Ray has his presentation to make.
I just want to say thank you to you guys for letting me be a small part of this crazy community and brotherhood. And thank you to the OWA for their leadership. Again, this doesn't happen in the other sports that I work with. This statewide brotherhood, you know, it's so much pocketed, kind of regionalized things. This is really special, the way we all come together annually. And that's not lost on me, and it shouldn't be lost on you. So live it up today, live it up tonight, live it up next year. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I tell you, it's a great honor I get to present this. It's called the Vince Matucci Person of the Year Award. And, you know, there's thousands and hundreds of people that do so much for Ohio wrestling. But Vince was, I call him the Godfather of Ohio. He brought us together. He made us a unit. Many, many years ago, depending what part of the state you were in, things were like called totally separate. I think we're in different countries. And he made it what we are today, this organization, and all of us in here with the gray hair. He pulled us all together to make us a unit in the state of Ohio. And I was honored. I was elected by this board last year, but this year our recipient is Dave Detek. And it's with great honor for me to present our shirt, Vince, representing Vince Matucci, to Dave Detek here. And we have a few of our other recipients. If you guys would come up here for a minute, please, with me. Tony, Trent, Paul. Out of all, this is our 6th year of giving the award. And Jim Hotelli lives in, I think, South Carolina now. He's not here, but every one of us are recipient of this award. And it's my great honor to give this to Dave.
I'm humbled by this award, and I only accept it under one condition. I'm accepting it for the many people out there that do more than me and deserve it more than me, but I'm accepting it for all of us. Thank you so much.
Okay, no, put it on.
All right, thanks, Ray. At this time, I'd like to introduce the first of our Hall of Fame recipients. It was from last year, and two of the guys have already gotten their awards at the state tournaments last year at the high schools, but we wanted to recognize them here as we always do, give them a chance to say something. So, Jack Regis, would you like to say something?
Thank you. I just want to thank Dan and the OWA for this award. 30 years ago when I started officiating, I never had a dream of receiving something like this. And I didn't earn this award. This award was, I thank all the wrestlers and coaches and ADs that hired me to let them be a little part of their life and to enjoy something I really enjoyed. This was something that I look forward to every Saturday, every tournament. And I thank you so very much for this honor. Thank you.
In case you haven't seen what the plaques look like, this is one, and I'd like to bring Dr. Randy Roble up. Present this to Randy last year, and he brought it back in so that we could present it again. But anyway, we want to let you know what these look like, and so here's Randy.
Thanks very much. And thank you all. I moved to Ohio in 1987. The 5 years before that, I was with Dan Gable at the University of Iowa. And if all of you know about Dan Gable, I learned the meaning of hard work and what hard work breeds success in wrestling and in life. And I've seen that over the subsequent 35 or so years that I've been around here and working with all of you. And it's what also I've learned is what a great community, what camaraderie we have, what great fellowship this is. And I'm honored to say, you know, that many of you become friends. Certainly great to work with. I've really enjoyed every minute. My team of doctors and athletic trainers have really enjoyed working with you and the wrestlers, and it's just been wonderful. And I can't thank you enough. I'm humbled, of course, by getting something like this, because there was a time when I sat out there and said, well, that's for the old guys, but I guess I'm one of the old guys now. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dick, we wanted to recognize one of our members that isn't here, Paul Branco, and his plaque is going to be presented in Cincinnati in 2 weeks. But you want to go ahead and say something about Paul?
Paul Branco was from the Southwest Ohio. He was out of the Greater Cincinnati Wrestling Official Association for the major part of his career. He also was a member, I believe, of the Dayton Association in his early years of officiating. Paul is just a wonderful person, a wonderful man. He helped to educate our officials. He was an example for our officials. He won all the major awards from our association, the Glenn Sample Award, the Kurt Rocco Award, the Merit Award. He was president and vice president of our association for several years, and type of guy that when you aspire to be a great official and you say, you know, what do I need to do to become a great official, okay? He's the kind of guy you point to and say, just do and say and act like that individual there, and someday you'll be a great official, okay? So Paul Branco passed away a year ago, and you know, we all miss him, and we're going to be presenting his award. His family requested that we present his award at our local banquet, which will be coming up in the next week and a half, so we'll be presenting it there. But on behalf of Paul Branco, on behalf of his family, his wife and his children, we'd like to thank you for that award, and couldn't go to a better person. Thank you.
Again, we're presenting the next plaque to our past president, Russ Brode. And if Christina, you want to say something? This is Russ's daughter.
His favorite daughter.
Favorite.
I just wanted to say thank you for this recognition for my dad. If you knew him, you knew how much he loved this sport and how passionate he was about it. And we always understood how busy he would be during wrestling season, but we loved to see him so happy, so it was worth it. And he always told us that my sister and I weren't allowed to get married during wrestling season because there was a good chance he wouldn't be able to make it. And I'm only 50% sure he was kidding. And I just want to say thank you for becoming another family to my dad and showing him incredible love and support through his life and through his battle with cancer. And I wish he was here to accept it himself, but I'm very honored to be here, and thank you all for meaning so much to him and my family.
No matter what corner of the state you're talking about, when the two initials DJ come up, we know what we're talking about. So from Toledo, our next inductee, Dan Giusetti. Dan?
I'd like to thank everybody involved in the Hall of Fame process. And my first inclination when I was told that I was going to be honored this way was I was going to tell about 5 or 6 dozen stories. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that because too many of them involve woo. So I'm going to cut it down to 2 or 3 dozen. But if Boo wants to tell any, he's got to pay royalties to me. So and he's cheap. So I do want to tell one story because it has kind of a Paul Harvey quality to it. There's this rest of the story quality to this first story. 1990. I'd only been officiating for 4 years. We're at the Perrysburg Invitational Tournament, which they call the Pit, and it's a big deal in the Toledo area. Perrysburg is a suburb of Toledo, and it's always, in the past, Royce and Tobin had finished 3rd, and the train wreck is going to happen in the finals. Okay, so we draw numbers at random to who's unlucky enough to have to ref this match. And at first we thought it was going to be Jim. Now the reason we miscounted was we were figuring the rotation based on 4 mats, but they because we were using 4 mats and then 3 mats, so we miscounted. So we're making fun of Jim like you can't believe as we're leading up to this volcanic explosion. And about 2 matches before the match, I realized I had miscalculated, and I had this just terrible sense of dread. Like, oh no, I don't want to ref this match. So what happens is the kids are out there in the center of the mat, glaring at each other before we're even ready to walk onto the mat to start. The place is completely packed. There's not a seat that's left open anywhere in the stands. There's people standing and sitting on the floor. I mean, it's completely packed, and you couldn't hear anything. So my first thought was, I want the match to go the distance. So we start the match, and 4 seconds we have an out of bounds, and St. Tobin has an underhook. So 2 seconds after the whistle on the apron of the mat, he just drills the weight kid's head down. So we have our first penalty. So right there, 4 seconds in, I'm like, we're not going to make it. We're not going to make 6 minutes. I don't think we're going to make it. So I think St. Tobin had the early lead in the match. Josh Deere starts getting the better of him. And then Troy St. Tobin always got a bloody nose. Always. So we have a blood timeout. they're trying to get the blood stopped. And the Josh Deere kid goes to his corner. He's sitting there. I am so cool. I am so cool on sportsmanlike conduct. So I'm like, one of these guys is going to get thrown out, probably. We restart the match. St. Tobin gets taken down again and kicks over a garbage can. Green this time, green. Sportsmanlike conduct. And so anyway, somewhere late in the second period, I don't remember what the score was, but Josh Deere was getting the better of Troy St. Tobin. And after another takedown, and then they went out of bounds, the weight kid comes back to the center this way, but St. Tobin goes around the long way, around, so I can't see him. And the entire crowd behind me collectively goes, "Ooh!" all at once. So I knew something happened. So the assistant comes up and says, hey, did you see what the Delta kid did? I said, no, but I'm sure you're going to tell me. Well, he just flipped off the crowd. Now, we didn't have the signal for flagrant back then, so you threw a guy out like you do in baseball. You're out of here. So that's the way the match ended. But the the next part of the story is many years later, here at the Schottenstein Center, after the finals, I walked right down Lane Avenue to the old Holiday Inn, and I was staying at the Holiday Inn that year, and I peeked into the lounge because I wanted to see if Wilson Rose was in there. Wilson was one of my favorite guys, and I'm at the entranceway, and I see this young, attractive woman jump up out of her seat and make a beeline towards me. So I was like, oh boy. Right there I was prepared to admit that my name was Tony Campolo and I lived in Upper Arlington. So I'm like stuck there. I'm like, well, okay, I'm just gonna take it. So she comes over and she says, hey, says, Mr. Jaksetic, my husband and I were at the finals tonight, and he just was raving about how you are like the greatest guy in the world. And I want you to come over and talk to him. So I'm like, wow, what is going on here, So, okay, so I walk over there, and it's Troy Santola. And Robin Rayfield had always told the story that he felt that I was responsible for Troy Santola being a state champ because I made him control his temper. And it always reminds me of Tony in the famous story where Howard Ferguson gives Tony credit for the Vinecourt kid being a state champ. And I'll let Tony tell that story. But that's a great story. And so I thought that was, it's like that Paul Harvey quality that, you figure this kid's he's got to hate you, right? And then you find out that the kid thinks you're the greatest, which it was an amazing thing to hear. But the other story I want to tell, it was one of the very first years we were here in the Schottenstein Center. And Tony, I don't remember, I asked you about this, I don't remember if it's the first year, second year, third year, but it was one of the first years we were here. And Tony's on my team there, Tony Trent, one of my fellow inductees. We're out there on the mat before the playing of the national anthem before session one. And it's real quiet because there's not a lot of fans in the arena yet. And there's somebody to my right yelling for me, calling out my name. And Tony's standing right to my right, and Tony goes, hey Dan, who is that guy up there yelling for you? And I go, that guy brought me to my very first ever state tournament. And you remember what he said, Tony? That's cool. He said, that is so cool. And it really is. That is so cool. And this is so cool. And I want to thank everybody.
Back in the last century, I was sent down to Dayton to officiate the districts down there, and I ran a bunch of great guys down there. And I worked with Steve, one of his first districts, and I met Tony down there, and it's just been great ever since. But anyway, I would like to introduce Tony Trent. Tony.
It was 1970 in Galleon High School, where I went to school, started a wrestling team. I had just got cut off the basketball team. And so I go home and I say, Dad, I want to go out for wrestling. No, I'm afraid you'll get hurt. Okay, so I didn't wrestle. Next year rolls around, Dad, I want to go out for wrestling. No, I'm afraid you'll get hurt. My senior year, I didn't even ask. Sat around all winter, got fat. My baseball coach told me, he says, Trent, you don't drop some pounds, you're going to be a catcher. And I normally played outfield. So I had no wrestling experience in high school. Transferred to Bowling Green my junior year, got involved in fraternity life, intramural sports, intramural wrestling. Thought I'll give this a try. So I go over to the facility where they're doing their thing. step out there and proceed to get my butt kicked repeatedly. No, this isn't for me. No, not a wrestler. Graduate there, go to Huber Heights, get my job teaching in 1977. I'm coaching football, junior high football, with a fellow by the name of Jim Johnson. Jim was also a member of the OWOA Hall of Fame, passed away several years ago in a car accident. Jimmy comes to me and he says, I finally get to have an assistant in my junior high wrestling program. Would you like to do it? I go, I don't know anything about wrestling. He says, you don't have to. All you got to do is get the kids in the locker room, get them dressed, get them upstairs, get them warmed up, and I'll be there, because he taught in the elementary school. I said, does it pay money? He said, yes. I said, I'll do it. Because, you know, starting out in 1977, I made $9,600 a year. I needed to coach football, coach wrestling, coach whatever I could coach in the spring, because we needed money, didn't we, back in the day. So I started coaching with Jim, got the kids all warmed up. He'd show up, then I would walk over with the bigger kids and let them just abuse me. I'd go home with bruises and finger marks and stuff all over me, and then I'd listen to Jim's instruction. So I coached with him for 8 years. He left me, went off to be an administrator. I had the team by myself for a year. We won our very first tournament of the year, and it was downhill from there. Kids were ineligible, and kids quit, and whole 9 yards. During that time, 1979, I got married, my wife Nancy, and she joined me in my wrestling experience as our cheerleading advisor, back in the day when they had cheerleaders for wrestling. And so she would go with us to the events, and not only would she advise the cheerleaders, but she became a bracket master. She would get 3 kids who weren't wrestling. Okay, you watch this mat, and this mat, and tell me who wins. And she was filling out the brackets. So all the coaches were coming from the various teams to check her brackets, because she always had current, up-to-date brackets. And so we enjoyed that together for a while. 1984, my son comes along, and I'm thinking, okay, she's not going to be involved anymore because she's going to stay home with Kyle, and I need to think about doing something else, but we still needed the money. And so I thought about officiating. I talked to my buddy Jim. Jim said, yeah, you got to do this. So I got involved in officiating in 1986, and have been there ever since. This is year 35 for me. I have been blessed in my experiences, because I have encountered people who for some strange reason liked me, took me under their wing, taught me, took time to explain, because I didn't know anything. You know, we had our meetings, I'd sit and listen, then we'd have our meetings after the meetings where we'd go over to Pizza Hut, and the gray-haired people who had been there forever and ever were talking about stuff, and I'm sitting there just trying to soak it all in, because I don't know, and I'm certainly not going to open my mouth and say something, because then they'll realize how much I don't know. So I'm listening to all of this. Guys like Bruce Dahl and Larry Powell. Bruce kept my schedule packed. He was always calling me, and he took great joy calling me after 10 o'clock at night, because he knew I was going to bed early because I worked, and he loved to call me like right late at night to wake me up. But he kept me busy, and I appreciated that, and I told him so before he died. Other guys, Steve Long, Jack Beard, who schooled me on wrestling, took me places, mentioned my name, got me involved into different tournaments. Coaches were great, because I didn't know anything. I figured, okay, these guys are coaches, they got to know something. And so when they take me to the corner, take me to the table, you know, they're challenging me. They're telling me their point of view. I learned so much from coaches, because it was a different perspective. Pat Murphy, who told me I would never be good enough to do a CIT. We're at the Nutter Center. He's screaming at me, "You will never be good enough to do a CIT." A few years later, I did CIT. I did 6 of them. And I told him, I said, well, Pat, you think I'm good enough now? He goes, yeah, I think you are. Dick McCoy taught me a lot about stalling from his perspective. And so, Jack Beard. Jack had a way with officials, but he didn't do that to me, because he knew me from early on, and he taught me a lot. So, the people that I've been with in the associations, brought me along, carried me through this experience. To think about why I'm getting in the Hall of Fame. They told me this in July at a gathering, and I've been real uneasy with it for the whole time because I have an idea of what it's like for people to be in the Hall of Fame. I've worked with Campolo, Tony Campolo. I'm working the state tournament with Tony. Tony, how do you want me to assist you? He says, I don't want to see you. Do not be in my field of vision. I'm thinking to myself, okay, how in the heck am I supposed to assist and not be, like we're talking 180 from each other? So it took me a long time, probably 2 days, to figure out how to get out of Tony's way because he's all over the places. That was an experience. I've worked with a lot of great people who I've learned a lot from. Having little or no experience, but I know enough to be dangerous. And I thank you for this honor. It's humbling to be considered with all the people whose names appear in the program. And even on the cover, I mean, how does that work? I must have paid somebody for that. But anyway, thank you so much, OWOA. It's leadership in the GDWOA. I think I got a good idea of who's responsible for this, but I'll just save that for later. If I've ever worked with you, thank you for the time and the insight and the sharing of your knowledge and your patience, because somebody with no experience had to learn a lot. So again, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Congratulations to all of our Hall of Fame winners. Every one of them deserved it. And even though they're very humble and sometimes feel like, hey, I'm so lucky to get this award or whatever, maybe there's other people that deserve it too. You know what? You got the award because people respect you, people look up to you, and people feel you deserve that award. Please accept that from all of us at the OWA. And we appreciate you guys all coming, and we hope you enjoy the finals tonight and the award presentation at the tonight's ceremonies, okay? Thank you so much for coming.